As you settle into the quiet of this moment, let your mind drift to the vast steppes of the Mongol Empire, around 1250 CE, where the air carries the scent of dry grass, wood smoke, and the faint musk of grazing horses. The empire stretches from the Pacific to the Caspian Sea, a world of rolling plains, felt tents, and bustling trade routes. But this is not a tale of conquest or cons. Instead, we follow the ordinary people, herders tending flocks, artisans crafting boughs, traders hauling goods, who sustained this nomadic realm. Their lives were shaped by the rhythms of the seasons, the demands of survival, and the web of traditions that bound their communities. There's no rush here, no need to hold on to every detail. Let the distant bleat of sheep, the creak of a cart's wheels, and the soft hum of a herder's song lull you, like the gentle sway of a felt tent in the wind. Close your eyes if you wish, and let this journey into the Mongol Empire carry you toward rest. Tonight we'll explore 10 facets of their world, each a glimpse into the daily lives of those who lived far from the battlefield. From the labor of herding to the intricate customs of nomadic life, we'll move slowly, savoring the textures and sounds of a time long past. The air is crisp with the scent of earth and leather, the steppe alive with the clatter of hooves and the murmur of voices. Life was harsh, cold winters, scarce resources, and the Khan's decrees loomed large, but there were also moments of warmth, shared meals, and quiet resilience. Let's begin by stepping onto the steppe, where the daily grind reveals the hidden truths of life in the Mongol Empire, wrapped in the rhythm of a world both vast and intimate. Imagine standing on the wind-swept steppe in 1250 CE, where the air is sharp with the scent of grass, horse sweat, and the faint smoke of a dung fire burning nearby. You're an ordinary Mongol, a herder tending goats, an artisan shaping felt, or a trader unloading goods, part of the nomadic community that keeps the empire alive. The steppe is a sea of grass, dotted with round felt tents called gers, their white walls swaying gently, the air filled with the creak of wooden frames and the bleat of livestock. Life here is a cycle of movement, labor, and survival, governed by the seasons and the Khan's distant authority. A single day would test your endurance, its demands woven into the fabric of the land. Let's wander through your routine, letting the rhythm of the steppe, the whistle of the wind, the thud of hooves, the weight of work settle over you like a woolen blanket, guiding you toward calm. Your day begins at dawn, stirred by the cold air seeping through the gers felt walls, or the low call of a herder moving the flock. You sleep on a pile of sheepskins, their warmth a shield against the chill, the air heavy with the smell of wool and smoke. You rise, pulling on a deal along, quilted robe of wool or fur, its fabric coarse but warm, the air crisp as you lace leather boots. Breakfast is simple, a bowl of boiled millet or a strip of dried mutton, its texture tough and salty, washed down with arag, fermented Mari's milk, its tangy bite lingering in the air. The meal is quick, the air warm with the faint glow of a fire and the murmur of your family stirring. Work depends on your role. As a herder, you guide sheep, goats, or horses across the steppe, your eyes scanning for wolves, the air filled with the dust of hooves and the sharp scent of trampled grass. You move the herd to fresh pastures, a task requiring hours of walking, your legs aching, the air whistling with the wind's bite. If you're an artisan, you sit by the ger, shaping felt from wool or carving a bow, your hands calloused, the air thick with the smell of lanolin or wood shavings. As a trader, you load a cart with furs or dried meat, the air heavy with the creak of wood and the musk of pack animals, preparing for a journey along the Silk Road. The steppe's vastness is your home, but its demands are relentless, the air alive with the rhythm of survival. Filth is a constant challenge despite the open air. Dust coats everything, your deal, your hair, the jur's floor, its gritty taste lingering in the air. Water is scarce, drawn from rivers or melted snow, its taste earthy and cold. Bathing is rare. You wipe your face with a damp cloth, the air sharp with the smell of unwashed bodies and wool. Gers are kept clean by sweeping dirt floors, but livestock nearby add a constant musk, the air filled with the bleat of goats or the snort of horses. Waste is buried or burned, the air briefly thick with the acrid smell of dung fires, a necessity to keep warm in winter. Cold is a formidable enemy. The steppe's winters are brutal, the air biting your face, your breath freezing in clouds. Even in summer, nights are chilly, the air piercing through your deal as you sleep. The jur's fire offers warmth, but its heat fades quickly, the air heavy with smoke and the faint scent of burning dung. Frostbite is a risk for herders, their fingers numb as they guide flocks, the air stinging with the wind's howl. Spring brings mud, the ground slick underfoot, the air damp with the smell of thawing earth and wet wool. Rules govern life enforced by tribal leaders or the Khan's officials. The yasa, a code of laws, demands loyalty, and order stealing a horse could mean death. The air tense with the weight of justice. Elders oversee disputes, their voices sharp, the air heavy with their authority. The Khan's taxes livestock or goods press on every family, the air filled with the clatter of carts delivering tribute. Shamans and Buddhist monks guide spiritual life, their chants filling the air, scented with juniper incense, as you pray for good grazing or health. A misstep could bring punishment or shame, the air thick with the need for obedience. Life beyond the ger is tied to the community. Many live in small camps, moving with the seasons, the air fresh with grass or heavy with snow. You visit neighbors, sharing air rag or news, the air warm with their laughter, and the smell of boiling millet. The empire's trade routes bring strangers, merchants, envoys whose goods fill the air with the scent of silk or spices. As night falls, you return to the ger, collapsing onto your sheepskins, the air quiet save for the wind's song, your body weary from the day's labor. As the steppe's vastness fades, let's shift to the life of one person, whose story reflects the challenges of this nomadic world. Let your thoughts drift to a ger on the Mongolian steppe in 1250 CE, where the air is warm with the scent of burning dung, the faint musk of sheepskins, and the soft creak of a wooden frame swaying in the wind. Here we meet Alton, a herder of 30, whose life is a quiet thread in the empire's vast tapestry. Imagine standing beside him, the glow of a fire casting shadows on the felt walls, the weight of a herding stick in his hands, the low hum of his voice calming a restless horse. Alton's story is one of resilience, not glory, a reflection of the countless herders who sustained the Mongol way of life, their labor unseen but vital. Let's follow his journey, letting the rhythm of his days, the bleat of sheep, the whistle of the wind, the scent of leather lull you like a gentle song, guiding you toward rest. Alton was born in 1220 in a camp near the Onon River to a herder and a felt maker. His father guided flocks across the steppe, the air filled with the dust of hooves and the scent of grass, while his mother shaped wool into felt, the air thick with lanolin and the rhythmic thud of her mallet. Life was tied to the seasons, moving the gare with the herds, but at 12, Alton joined his father, learning to herd sheep and horses, the air sharp with the cold of early mornings and the snort of animals. His first day alone with the flock was daunting. The steppe's vastness stretched endlessly, the air tense with the howl of a distant wolf. As a herder, Alton's days were long and demanding. He rose at dawn, dressing in a woolen deal and fur hat, the air chilly as he stepped onto the frost-crisp grass. His work began with checking the herd, counting sheep or goats, his eyes scanning for strays, the air filled with their bleats and the scent of wet wool. He guided them to new pastures, riding a sturdy horse, its saddle creaking, the air whistling with the wind's bite. Wolves were a constant threat, their howls piercing the air, and Alton's bow was ready, its string taut, the air tense with vigilance. In winter, he broke ice for water, his hands numb, the air heavy with the smell of snow and effort. At 20, Alton married Sarnai, a weaver who spun wool into thread, the air soft with the whir of her spindle and the scent of lanolin. Their wedding was a communal affair held in the camp, with neighbors sharing arag and roasted mutton, the air warm with the glow of a bonfire and the sound of a morn coor, a horsehead fiddle. They lived in a gare, its felt walls patched, the air damp with the smell of earth and smoke. Their son, Baitu, was born a year later, his cries filling the gare, the air warm with the scent of milk and wool. Alton's meager wealth measured in livestock-bought millet, salt, and occasional tea, the air heavy with the effort of providing for his family. Hardship was ever present. The winter of 1245 was brutal, the steppe frozen, the air biting Alton's face as he protected the herd from starvation. Disease struck often anthrax or fever killed livestock, the air thick with the smell of death and burning carcasses. Hunger followed poor grazing years, when meals shrank to millet gruel, the air tense with the rumble of empty stomachs. The Khan's tribute demanded horses or sheep, leaving Alton's herd smaller, the air heavy with the clatter of carts taking his wealth. Yet he worked on, his hands calloused from rains, the air filled with the rhythm of hooves and his quiet resolve. There were moments of light. Alton found solace with other herders, their laughter shared over a bowl of arag, the air warm with the smell of fermentation and camaraderie. Festivals like Nadam brought wrestling and archery, the air alive with cheers and the dust of racing horses. At home, Sarnai sang to Baitu, her voice soft in the firelight, the air scented with milk and wool. These moments were fleeting, sparks in a life of toil, but they sustained him, the air filled with the warmth of community. By his 40s, Alton's body bore the marks of his labor, his hands scarred, his back bent from years on horseback. He died in 1265, likely from a fall or fever, his life unrecorded but vital to the empire's pulse. As Alton's story fades, let's shift to the traces of this world, uncovered by those who seek its past. Imagine standing on a grassy mound in modern Mongolia, where archaeologists sift through earth to uncover the lives of the Mongol Empire's people. The year is now, but your mind lingers in 1250, where the air was thick with grass, smoke, and the musk of horses. Ordinary Mongols like Alton left few written records, their lives preserved in the objects they touched: a worn saddle, a broken bow, a frayed rope. Archaeology is a window into their world, revealing the culture, mysteries, and resilience of those who sustain the steppe's rhythm. Let's explore these traces, letting their stories settle like dust on a quiet plain, their whispers guiding you toward rest. The steppe hides its secrets well, but excavations near Karakorum, the empire's capital, reveal daily life. Gears leave faint traces, circles of packed earth, fire pits with charred bones, or post holes for wooden frames. The air in these digs is cool and earthy, each artifact a glimpse of labor, a clay pot, its rim stained with millet, a bone needle dropped by a weaver, a rusted arrowhead, its edge dulled from use. A leather strap, frayed from a saddle, speaks of endless rides, the air once filled with the creak of harnesses and the scent of horse sweat. These finds are fragile, their survival a testament to the Mongols' presence, the air heavy with the past. The culture was one of mobility and survival, shaped by the steppe's demands and the Khan's rule. Families moved with the seasons, their gears packed onto carts, the air filled with the creak of wheels and the bleat of flocks. Shamanism and Buddhism guided spiritual life. Offerings of milk or meat were made to spirits, the air thick with juniper smoke and chants. Festivals like Sagan Sar brought feasting, with tables laden with mutton, arag, and dumplings, the air rich with grease and laughter. These moments were a pause, the community gathering around fires, the air warm with songs and the glow of felt walls. Archaeology uncovers the daily grind. Campsite middens, piles of bones, ash, and pottery shards show what people ate: mutton, horse, or wild game, with millet or dairy for herders like Alton. The air in these camps was once heavy, with the smell of boiling broth and dung fires, meals eaten from wooden bowls, their portions modest, a carved bone dice or a felt toy found near a ger, hints at small joys, the air once filled with laughter or a child's giggle. In shrines, a bronze statue or a fragment of incense speaks of faith, the air heavy with devotion and the fear of spirits' wrath. Mysteries linger in these finds. Why were some items, a knife, a coin, buried beneath a ger, perhaps as an offering or hidden from raiders? A hoard of silver found in a riverbank suggests trade or tribute, the air thick with the weight of secrecy. Graves, often simple, hold clues, saddles, or boughs buried with men, the air heavy with the memory of their lives. Women's lives, like Sarnai's, are elusive, their work leaving faint traces, a spindle whirl, a warm loom weight, the air filled with the echo of their labor. Why some children's toys, like a clay horse, were found broken in middens remains a puzzle, the air tense with the possibility of loss. The steppe was a community, its people bound by shared hardship. Gossip about the Khan's court or a traitor's tale filled the air, a quiet rebellion against their lot. Songs or stories, shared by firelight, taught lessons or brought laughter, the air warm with the rhythm of a Morin chor. These traces, uncovered by careful hands, weave a picture of resilience, the air heavy with the scent of effort and survival. As we leave this world of artifacts, let's shift to the lives of the elite, whose world of power stood in stark contrast to the herder's toil. Picture yourself inside a grand ger, its walls hung with silk tapestries, the air warm with the scent of burning sandalwood, polished leather, and the faint sweetness of imported tea. The year is 1250, and this is the world of the Mongol elite Khans, generals, and their families whose lives of privilege contrast sharply with those of herders like Altan. The empire is a network of power, its camps filled with the clink of silver and the murmur of authority, but its rules are no less rigid. Let's explore their world, letting the rhythm of their days, the flicker of a fire, the strum of a fiddle settle over you like a fur cloak, guiding you toward calm. The Khan's family, like Mongol Khan, lived in relative luxury. Their gear was spacious, its floor covered with carpets, the air warm with the glow of a central hearth and the scent of furs. They rose at dawn, dressed by attendants in silk deals embroidered with gold, the air soft with the rustle of fabric and the clink of jewelry. Breakfast was rich. Roasted mutton, fresh maize milk, or tea from China, served in silver bowls, the air fragrant with spices and the warmth of a fire. Their day was spent in council, overseeing tribute or planning campaigns, the air filled with the scratch of scribes' pens and the murmur of envoys. Women like the Khan's wife managed the camp, their voices sharp, the air heavy with the weight of their authority. Nobles' lives were a balance of power and display. They hunted with falcons, the air fresh with the scent of grass and the cry of birds. Feasts were lavish, with tables laden with venison, maize milk, and imported fruits, the air rich with grease and the sound of music. Their children were trained in riding, archery, and governance, the air heavy with the thud of arrows and the smell of leather. Marriages were strategic, binding tribes or securing alliances, the air thick with the clink of silver gifts and the murmur of negotiations. Yet their status depended on the Khan's favor, the air tense with the need to please or risk exile. The contrast with Altan's life is stark. Where Altan slept on sheepskins, nobles rested on silk cushions, the air warm with furs and firelight. Where Altan ate millet gruel, nobles dined on delicacies, the air rich with spices and wine. Yet both faced pressures, Altan to survive, nobles to maintain power. A failed campaign could strip a noble's wealth, just as a harsh winter could starve Altan's herd, the air tense with worry over resources. The empire's expansion brought risks, rebellions or raids could threaten both, the air heavy with the distant sound of hooves or war drums. The Yasa bound them all, its laws enforced by the Khan's will, the air thick with the weight of obedience. Ordinary Mongols sustained this elite world, their labor invisible. Herders like Altan provided horses and meat, the air filled with the bleat of flocks and the creak of carts. Artisans crafted boughs or felt, their hands calloused, the air heavy with wood shavings or lanolin. Traders brought silk or tea, their journeys long, the air dusty with their caravans. Their meals were simple millet, dried mutton, arag eaten in the ger, the air smoky from the fire. Some were bound by debt or servitude, the air tense with the weight of obligation. These workers were the empire's pulse, their toil enabling its grandeur, the air filled with the rhythm of their tasks. The nobles' world was one of privilege, but also constraint. They owed loyalty to the Khan, their wealth tied to his favor, their every move watched by rivals, the air thick with whispers of intrigue. As we leave this world of silk and silver, let's shift to the tools and technologies that shaped the empire, the inventions that sustained both herder and noble in their daily lives. Imagine standing inside a ger, the year 1250, where the air is thick with the scent of wood smoke, wool, and the faint musk of leather. The Mongol Empire was a marvel of mobility, its daily life built on the tools and skills of people like Altan. From the herder's bow to the artisan's needle, these technologies were simple but vital, each one a partner in the grind of survival. Let's explore this world of craft, letting the rhythm of creaking carts, clinking harnesses, and the steady thud of a mallet settle over you like the hum of a busy camp, guiding you toward rest. Herding was the empire's backbone, its tools designed for mobility. The lasso, made of horsehair rope, was used to catch strays, its weight light but strong, the air filled with the whistle of its swing and the snort of horses. Saddles, crafted from wood and leather, were sturdy, their surfaces worn smooth, the air heavy with the creak of straps and the scent of hide. Bows, made of horn and sinew, were a herder's defense, their strings taut, the air sharp with the twang of an arrow against wolves. Alton's horse was his lifeline, its hooves kicking up dust, the air filled with the rhythm of galloping and the smell of sweat. The Gare was a technological marvel, portable and warm. Its wooden frame, bound with leather, was assembled quickly, the air creaking with the tightening of ropes. Felt walls, made by pounding wool, kept out wind, the air thick with lanolin and the thud of mallets. The central hearth, a circle of stones, burned dung or wood, its smoke curling through the roof's opening, the air warm but acrid. Moving the Gare required carts, their wheels creaking under the weight of felt and wood, the air dusty with the effort of migration. These tools made nomadism possible, the air filled with the rhythm of packing and unpacking. Crafting was essential, its tools basic but precise. Artisans like Sarnai used bone needles to sew felt or leather, the air soft with the rustle of thread and the scent of wool. Looms made of wood wove blankets, their clack steady, the air heavy with dust and lanolin. Blacksmiths forged iron knives or arrowheads, their hammers ringing, the air filled with sparks and the smell of heated metal. Traders used scales to weigh goods, their brass glinting, the air clicking with the balance of silver or furs. These tools were the empire's lifeblood, their use a dance of skill and effort, the air heavy with the scent of labor. Water was a challenge, drawn from rivers or melted snow, its taste earthy, the air damp with buckets or leather bags. Arag was fermented in goatskin bags, the air rich with its tangy smell and the slosh of liquid. Cooking relied on iron pots, hung over fires, their surfaces blackened, the air thick with the scent of boiling millet or mutton. These tools brought risks. A dull knife could slip, a fire could flare, the air filling with smoke or cries. Maintenance was constant sharpening blades, mending ropes, patching felt, and a broken tool could halt work, the air tense with the fear of delay. Yet these tools sustained the empire, each one a testament to the people's resilience, the air heavy with the scent of effort and survival. As we leave this world of craft, let's shift to the customs and traditions that gave meaning to their lives, binding them to their community and beliefs. Picture yourself seated by a Gyr's fire, the year 1250, where the air is warm with the scent of burning dung, the faint tone of Arag, and the soft murmur of voices in the evening. For people like Alton, life was shaped by customs and traditions, rituals that marked the seasons, strengthened community, and honored the spirits. These practices were a lifeline, offering order in a world of movement and hardship. Imagine the flicker of a fire, the rustle of felt walls, and the drone of a shaman's chant, their rhythm soothing like a familiar song. Let's wander through these rituals, letting their cadence wrap around you, guiding you toward rest. Shamanism and Buddhism shaped spiritual life, their rituals anchoring the year. Families offered milk or meat to the sky god Tengri, sprinkling it on the fire, the air thick with juniper smoke and the hum of prayers. Alton knelt before a small shrine, his hands trembling with offerings, the air heavy with the scent of incense and devotion. Festivals like Sar brought feasting, with gers filled with dumplings, mutton, and arag, the air rich with grease and the sound of laughter. Neighbors gathered, sharing bowls, the air warm with the glow of fires and the rhythm of songs. These moments were a pause, the community united, the air alive with shared spirit. Seasonal rituals tied life to the steppe. Spring brought blessings for herds, shamans chanting over lambs or foals, the air fresh with grass and hope. Summer migration saw families pack gears onto carts, the air filled with the creak of wheels and the bleat of flocks. Nadam, the festival of three manly games, was a highlight. Wrestling, archery, and horse racing filled the air with cheers, dust, and the thud of hooves. Alton competed in archery, his bow steady, the air sharp with the twang of strings and the scent of sweat. These rituals were a release, the air warm with the energy of the crowd. Weddings were communal, strengthening tribal bonds. Alton and Sarnai's marriage was typical, a ceremony by the ger, with a shaman blessing the couple, the air scented with milk offerings and the sound of a morn kur. Neighbors brought gifts, a sheep, a felt blanket, their voices rising in song, the air warm with joy. Funerals were solemn, bodies buried with saddles or boughs, the air heavy with earth and prayers, families sharing arag to honor the dead. These rituals were a bond, the community a witness, the air filled with the weight of beginnings and endings. Daily rituals were simpler but vital. Meals were a time to gather, the family sharing a pot of millet or mutton, the air warm with the smell of broth and the hearth's glow. Prayers were said before eating, a nod to the spirits, the air scented with a pinch of incense. Superstitions guided actions, a charm hung in the ger to ward off evil, a stone placed for luck. Alton wore a small amulet, its weight a comfort, the air tense with whispered chants against misfortune. These beliefs were a shield, a way to navigate an uncertain world, the air heavy with their quiet power. Storytelling was cherished, done by firelight in the ger. Tales of Genghis Khan, spirits, or camp gossip filled the air, their cadence soothing as Alton listened, his hands resting from herding. The air carried the scent of smoke and wool, the stories of bond between families, teaching courage or sparking laughter. The steppe was a community, its rituals weaving people together despite their toil, the air warm with the rhythm of shared lives. As we leave this world of tradition, let's shift to the food and sustenance that nourished these people, sustaining them through their daily labor. Imagine sitting inside a ger, the year 1250, where the air is warm with the starchy scent of boiled millet, the faint smoke curling upward, mingling with the musky smell of mutton. Food was the foundation of life on the steppe, a necessity that demanded skill and thrift. For people like Alton, meals were simple, shaped by the herds and the seasons, yet they were a source of comfort, a pause in a life of movement. Picture the flicker of a fire, the clink of wooden bowls, and the soft murmur of a family sharing a meal, their warmth wrapping around you like a sheepskin blanket. Let's explore the tastes, textures, and smells of their table, letting these details settle gently in your mind, guiding you toward rest. Millet or barley was the staple, boiled into gruel or porridge in an iron pot. Alton ate it daily, its texture thick and chewy, sometimes mixed with dried meat, the air warm with the faint smell of grain and smoke. Bread was rare, but flat cakes of barley were baked on hot stones, their crusts hard, the air filled with the scent of char and flour. On good days, a bit of Mare's milk or cheese accompanied it, the air rich with their creamy tang, a treat that softened the gruel's blandness.
Meat was the heart of the diet, provided by the herds. Mutton was common, boiled or roasted over the fire, its fatty taste savory, the air heavy with the smell of grease and dripping fat. Alton butchered a sheep in autumn, its meat dried or smoked for winter, the air thick with the scent of curing. Horse meat was rarer, eaten in ceremonies, its flavor rich, the air warm with the crackle of roasting. Game, deer or marmot, was hunted when possible, its taste wild, the air filled with the thrill of a successful chase. Organs were prized, boiled into broth, the air rich with their earthy aroma. Dairy was a lifeline, especially in summer. Mare's milk was fermented into arag, its tangy bite refreshing, the air filled with the slosh of goatskin bags and the smell of fermentation. Cheese, dried into hard curds called arrowel, was a staple, its texture tough but portable, the air heavy with its milky scent. Butter was churned in leather bags, its creamy taste a luxury, the air warm with the effort of shaking. Milk was boiled to preserve it, the air thick with steam and the faint sweetness of dairy, a contrast to the steppe's harshness. Vegetables were scarce, limited to wild onions or roots foraged on the steppe. Their sharp taste cut through the monotony of meat and grain, the air filled with the crunch of chewing and the scent of earth. Fruit was a rare treat, wild berries or apples from trade routes, its sweetness a delight, the air soft with their juicy aroma. Tea, imported from China, was a luxury, its bitter warmth shared in small bowls, the air heavy with the scent of leaves and the clink of pottery. Food preparation was women's work, often shared with children. Sarnai boiled millet or dried meat, her hands calloused, the air filled with the clatter of pots and the bubble of broth. Preservation was critical. Meat was air-dried, milk fermented, grain stored in leather bags. Waste was unthinkable. Bones were boiled for broth, fat used for fuel, the air a mix of smoke, grease, and the faint sweetness of stored berries. Meals were a communal act. The family gathered around the fire, their spoons clinking, the air warm with the hearth's glow and the murmur of talk, gossip about the camp, the day's work, or the weather. The act of eating was a pause, a moment of connection in a life of toil, the air filled with the comfort of togetherness. Even in hunger, there was gratitude for what was in the bowl, each bite a small defiance against the steppe's demands. As we leave the nomads' table, let's shift to the challenges and dangers that shaped their lives, from the perils of herding to the threats lurking on the steppe. Imagine walking the steppe at dusk, the year 1250, where the air is cold, the grass brittle underfoot, and the distant howl of a wolf echoes across the plain. For people like Alton, life was a constant negotiation with danger, cold, hunger, and the Khan's decrees were ever present, their impact felt in the quiet moments of fear and loss. Picture the flicker of a fire, the weight of a bough in calloused hands, and the tense silence of a prayer to the spirits, their rhythm a steady pulse in a world of hardship. Let's explore these perils, letting their weight settle gently in your thoughts, like snow falling on a gare's roof, guiding you toward calm. Cold was a relentless foe. The steppe's winters were brutal, the air biting Alton's face, his breath freezing in clouds. Even in the Gur, the fire's warmth was fleeting, the air heavy with smoke and the chill of felt walls. His deal and fur hat offered some protection, but frostbite was a risk, his fingers numb as he herded, the air stinging with the wind's howl. Spring brought floods, the ground slick with mud, the air damp with the smell of wet wool and earth. Summer dust storms could blind, the air thick with grit and the roar of wind. Disease was a constant shadow, striking humans and herds alike. Fevers or dysentery spread in camps, the air thick with the smell of burning juniper meant to ward off spirits. Alton tended his sick son with milk offerings, the air heavy with worry and the scent of smoke. Livestock faced anthrax or parasites, their deaths a blow to survival, the air filled with the stench of burning carcasses. Water from rivers was often muddy, its taste earthy, the air damp with the risk of every sip. Arag was safer, but spoilage was common, the air sharp with its sour tang. Herding was dangerous, even for the skilled. Wolves or bandits threatened flocks, the air tense with their howls or the thud of hooves in the night. Altan's bow was his defense, its strings snapping, the air sharp with the flight of an arrow. Falls from horses were common, the air filled with the thud of a body on grass and the cry of pain. Moving the wrist collapse, the air heavy with the creak of carts and the strain of ropes. Women faced additional dangers. Raids or travelers could threaten their safety, the air thick with unspoken fear and the need to stay vigilant. The empire's rules were a peril of their own. The Yasa demanded obedience. Stealing or defying a leader could bring flogging or death, the air sharp with the crack of a whip. Taxes and livestock or goods pressed on every family, the air heavy with the clatter of tribute carts. Shamans enforced spiritual rules. Failing to honor spirits could invite misfortune, the air thick with their chants and the fear of curses. The community was a lifeline, neighbors sharing airag or warmth, their voices a murmur by the fire, the air warm with their presence. Faith offered solace, prayers whispered to Tungri, the air heavy with incense and hope. The steppe itself was a hazard. Blizzards could trap herders, the air blinding with snow and the howl of wind. Rivers swelled in spring, drowning carts or flocks, the air filled with the roar of water. Raids from rival tribes were a threat, the air tense with the distant sound of hooves or shouts. Yet resilience was the Mongols' strength, a quiet defiance against a world that demanded so much. As we leave this world of peril, let's shift to the education and learning that offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to rise above the challenges of daily life. Imagine sitting by a Gair's fire, the year 1250, where the air smells of smoke and wool, and the faint scratch of a stick on dirt traces a child's lesson. Education for people like Altan was informal, shaped by necessity and tradition, yet it held a quiet power, a spark of possibility in a world of toil. For the Khan's children, learning was a path to power, while for herders, it was a skill taught through life. Picture the glow of a fire, the weight of a bough in small hands, and the murmur of a story, their rhythm soothing like a gentle breeze. Let's explore this world of education, letting its faint light settle in your mind, guiding you toward rest. For most Mongols, education was practical, woven into daily tasks. Altan taught his son, Batu, to herd, guiding his hands to hold reins or a lasso, the air filled with the dust of hooves and the scent of horse sweat. Sarnai taught her daughter to weave, showing her how to spin wool, the air soft with the whir of a spindle and the smell of lanolin. Children learned by doing, milking mares, repairing jares, or tracking game, their knowledge shaped by survival. The air carried the sounds of labor, the bleat of sheep, the creak of carts, each task a lesson in endurance, taught without words but etched into memory. Formal education was rare, tied to shamans or monks. In larger camps, a Buddhist monk might teach a few boys to read Chinese or Mongolian script, their lessons held by firelight. Imagine Badu tracing characters in the dirt, the air heavy with the scratch of a stick and the smell of smoke. The curriculum was narrow, scripture, basic counting, but it offered a chance to become a scribe or envoy, a step above the step's toil. Reading was a skill few mastered, writing even rarer, reserved for those with time or a noble's favor, the air thick with the effort of learning. Girls had less access, their education domestic. Sarnai taught weaving or dairy making, the air warm with the scent of wool or milk. The Khan's children had tutors, often monks or scholars, who taught Chinese, Persian, or mathematics in grand jairs. The air was heavy with the smell of ink and parchment, the scratch of a quill marking lessons. They learned strategy or astronomy, the air filled with the clack of abacus beads, preparing for leadership. Books were rare, carried by traders, their pages a treasure, the air scented with leather and wax. These lessons were a world apart from Altan's, the air thick with the weight of imperial ambition. Knowledge was often oral. By the fire, Altan listened to tales of ancestors or the Khan's conquests, their cadence soothing as he rested his hands. The air carried the scent of smoke and wool, the stories teaching courage or survival. Neighbors shared songs or legends, their voices a murmur, the air warm with the twang of a mournkur. Artisans taught their trade to apprentices, passing down the rhythm of forging or weaving, the air filled with sparks or thread. These lessons were a bond, tying families to their community, the air heavy with tradition. Education faced challenges. Teachers were few, often monks with their own duties, the air heavy with their chants. Resources were scarce, parchment or ink was costly, and work pulled children away, the air filled with parents' demands. Spiritual beliefs limited secular learning, emphasizing rituals over numbers, the air thick with incense and prayers. Yet knowledge was a ladder, however steep. A boy who read could become a scribe, escaping the herd, the air alive with the scratch of his pen. A girl who learned herbs could heal her family, the air scented with her remedies. These small victories were seeds of hope, planted in the soil of the steppe. As we leave this world of learning, let's shift to the leisure and entertainment that offered a moment of joy, a chance to rest in a life of toil. Picture yourself in a camp at dusk, the year 1250, where the air is cool with the scent of grass and the sound of a morin drifts through the jars. For people like Alton, leisure was a rare escape, a moment to find joy amid labor and hardship. These pastimes, music, games, and festivals, were a celebration of community, a chance to laugh and dream in a world that demanded so much. Imagine the glow of a fire, the clatter of bones in a game, and the soft murmur of a tale, their warmth wrapping around you like a woven blanket. Let's wander through these moments, letting their joy settle over you, guiding you toward rest. Festivals were the heart of leisure, tied to the seasons or spirits. Sagan Sar brought feasting, with jars laden with dumplings, mutton, and arag, the air rich with grease and the sound of laughter. Families gathered, sharing bowls, the air warm with the glow of fires and the rhythm of songs. Naddam was a highlight, with wrestling, archery, and horse racing, the air alive with cheers, dust, and the thud of hooves. Alton watched the races, his heart racing, the air filled with the scent of sweat and the excitement of the crowd. These moments were a release, the community's shared spirit a balm against toil, the air warm with celebration. Music was a constant joy, even in daily work. Alton sang herding songs, his voice blending with the bleat of sheep, the air sharp with the wind's whistle. In the Gur, Sarnai played a morin its strings humming, the air warm with the scent of wool and firelight. Instruments were simple, fiddles, flutes, or drums, their notes drifting through the camp, a comfort after a long day. Dance was communal, especially at festivals, with families joining in circle dances, their steps steady on the grass, the air filled with the energy of the crowd. Games were another pastime. Men played shagai with ankle bones, tossing them like dice, the air clicking with their fall and the murmur of bets. Children chased hoops or wrestled, their laughter a bright note, the air dusty with their play. Archery contests were common, even among herders, the air sharp with the twang of bows and the thud of arrows. Markets brought spectacle, traders telling tales of distant lands, their stalls piled with silk or tea, the air rich with spices and the chatter of bargaining. Storytelling was cherished, done by firelight in the jar tales of Genghis Khan, spirits, or camp heroes filled the air, their cadence soothing as Alton listened, his hands resting from herding. The air carried the scent of smoke and wool, the stories of bond between families, teaching courage or sparking laughter. The steppe was a stage, with gossip about the Khan's court or a trader's adventure shared in whispers, the air warm with intrigue. These moments were a bridge, connecting people to their world, the air filled with the rhythm of shared lives. The steppe itself offered leisure. Families walked to rivers, fishing or gathering berries, the air fresh with water and greenery. Markets were entertainment, with goods traded for a rare apple or a copper ring, the air rich with the smell of leather and the chatter of vendors. These moments were fleeting, a chance to feel the sun or taste a sweet berry, the air warm with the joy of a treat. Nobles had grander pastimes, hunting with falcons, feasts with envoys, but ordinary Mongols found joy in simpler ways, the air filled with the sounds of community and the warmth of connection. As we leave this world of joy, let's shift to a final reflection, tying together the threads of these people's lives. As the sounds of the steppe fade, the bleat of sheep, the creak of carts, the scent of arag and smoke, let your mind rest in the quiet that follows. We've wandered through the lives of people like Alton, from the labor of herding to the customs that bound their communities, from the weight of hardship to the fleeting joys of a festival. Their world was one of movement and survival, shaped by grass, felt, and the seasons, yet it was also one of resilience, where family and tradition offered strength. Imagine yourself now, in a soft, warm bed, the air still and the challenges of their time far away, their struggles a distant echo. Their lives, though unrecorded, remind us of the endurance that carries us through, the quiet victories that define us in the face of hardship. Let the details slip away like dust settling on the steppe. The vast plains, the smoky jares, the taste of millet and arag. They fade into the background, leaving only the peace of this moment. You've journeyed through a world that shaped an empire, its people's small hands and steady hearts keeping its rhythm alive. Now, it's time to rest, to let go of the steppe's bustle and sink into calm. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the gentle rhythm of history lull you into sleep, safe in the stillness of now.